Hello, personal finance students. This is week 9, and in week 9, we're going to talk about and study asset allocation and portfolio theory. And so I thought, as a way to help you with the assignment, I would kind of guide you through and show you what I'm looking for as we move forward. So I talked about last week about how these spreadsheets should start tying together and should start linking with one another in your mind. And this is another great example of how week 8 investment objectives links with week 9 diversification and asset allocation. So let's go back to the investment objectives spreadsheet. As you can see, I have my example that I showed you last week back up on the screen. However, what I did is I went ahead and I put the percentages in to the total. So I summed up this column, and then I just simply divided this by this, and then just kept doing that all the way down. And you can see these are the percentages. So you can see that in terms of my investment dollars, a lot of my investment dollars is going to retirement, over 90%. And if I sum up all of my kind of growth objectives, it's 98.5% that I'm going to need over a lifetime in order to meet my objective. Now, this doesn't mean that means that I put in 98 out of every $100 that I have to invest, that I invest 98 of that. But it gives you an idea of, wow, growth needs to be a big part of my plan if I'm going to meet my objectives. And then you can see capital preservation as a total is very low, 1.5%, maybe just over 1 actually. And then you can see that income is very small as well. These are used just for a guide, right? This is just to guide you in terms of, so you can kind of see, well, what objective do I need to be most weighted in, and over the long haul, and how might I go about that? But this is where we start, is we go back and we look at this and we say, okay, according to our objectives with our goals, I need to be pretty heavily weighted in growth. And when you think about growth, the first thing that you should think about is stocks. Stocks are growth, very simply put. There are some bonds that can be growth, but bonds would typically are income. So if you think about income, go to the bond area. Again, very simply put. And then the other one is capital preservation. So you're talking here money market funds, savings accounts, money that does not depreciate, somewhat guaranteed. So with that understanding, then let me pull up this week's assignment. So this week's assignment, pull it over here a little bit, is all about diversification and asset allocation. So what did I do? Well, first thing I did is I just basically took those percentages from this page and I put them into this formula, because this has to equal 100%. So it says, of my investment dollars, where am I going to put the money? Now, like I mentioned before, just because over here it shows that you're heavily weighted in growth doesn't mean that for every $100 you have invested that you need to put in 98, or I put 96 over here, 96 of those dollars towards your retirement. If you were to do so, at least early on, you would never, or take you a long time to get your emergency savings and your house down payment. In addition, it would also, come at a cost possibly of, achieving some of these goals. So you want to be very careful in how you do it. And let me see if I can show that a little bit further over here. So if you look at this sheet, so I just first started by just transposing those numbers basically. I took the 98 down to 96 just because it felt super high. And again, this has to equal 100%. Then I go down and I say, well, how often am I going to reassess my asset allocation? This is critical because in your financial plan, you need to be going back to the plan and back to your allocation and your objectives constantly, because some of your objectives are going to move from a growth objective into an income objective or into a capital preservation objective. For example, your son or daughter is 17 or 18 and they're going to go on a mission in a year. The funds that you have saved for their mission should not be in a growth objective. They should be more towards the capital preservation with maybe a little bit of income. Why? Well, because you need that money in the near future. You can't risk the opportunity for it to go up and down while your son or daughter is on their mission. And so it's important that you reassess your asset allocation, and I put annually, and then choose what method you're going to allocate your assets. I chose tactical asset allocation because I want to set a strategic allocation, but then I want to be able to go back in at certain times and adjust the allocation. One example of that in my own life is right now, I'm not as heavily weighted in global stocks as I am in the US. A lot of that has to do with the political environment. A lot of that has to do with what I feel right now is going to be happening with our country, and how the new elected president is going to focus a lot on putting America first. And so I feel like there's going to be some gains there, while I think that the lag will be in the distant future for the international global companies. And then diversification. The question is, will you diversify within an asset class? So basically it's saying within stocks, will you diversify, meaning size of stocks, the size of the company, also the type of company that it is, the industry it's in, etc. And I said yes, and then I gave the answer. But let me go down to the bottom here, and this is what I really wanted to try to explain. So here what you're saying, in this example that we have here, you're saying that for every $100 invested, so again, it's for every $100 that you have to invest. In this example, you'd be saying 96 of those dollars are going to go towards the growth strategy or stocks. 3 are going to go towards capital preservation, which is your emergency plan and housing, and 1 is going to go towards that mission trip that I have on my plan. So this isn't going to be a great plan because it's going to take forever to save up towards the emergency and the housing fund. And I know I have time here on the growth strategy, so I don't have to put as much in. I can let that interest really work for me. So what I'm going to do, just again, and it's just kind of, what you think. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say 65% of my investment dollars are going to go into the growth strategy. And I'm going to say that 10% of my investments are going to go into the income strategy. And then I'm going to say that 25% of my investment dollars are going to go into the money market, because I'm starting from zero and I need to make sure that I have that saved up. So summing all that up, that's 100%. So that makes sense. So again, if I come down here and this isn't mandatory, this section, it's just for visual purposes. I say, okay, 65 is going to go to that, is going to go to the growth strategy. And then I say $25 of every 100 invested is going to go towards capital preservation. And then $10 towards, of every $100 I have to invest is going to go towards the bond. That feels better to me because I have time. I don't need to meet that objective right now. I have time to put in little bits here and there in order for that to grow over time and make my objective for each of those objectives that I have: the missions, the college for my kids, and then also retirement for my wife and I. So I hope that this has helped you understand the assignment and kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for you to tie in what you're doing here and also what's happening over here in your asset allocation, along with an explanation down here. But the more you can make it real, the better you'll be. The better off you'll be, one, in the future as you go back and make adjustments to the plan, but also on the assignment. Thanks, students. Hope you've enjoyed this. Have a good day. Bye-bye.